Ariel Helwani in Mexico City for UFC 188 alongside Charles Rosa, who meets Yair Rodriguez this Saturday live on pay-per-view. And Charles, there are a lot of big names here. Cain Velasquez, Fabricio Verdum, Eddie Alvarez, Gilbert Melendez. I came to you first for one reason and one reason only. I have heard through the grapevine, I want you to confirm this. Way back in the day, you disrespected the Montreal Canadiens flag. You stole it and ran away. Is that true? I'm coming to you as a Montrealer to find out if this is true.
Yes, I did. I stole a Canadian flag at a Boston Bruins Montreal Canadiens playoff game. It was when Marc Savard scored the game-winning goal in overtime, and Canadian fans were above me waving the flag, so I stole it and ran with it. I got chased down, across the Boston Garden, and it was actually pretty cool to come back there and get my first UFC win there as well.
You realize how big of a deal this is to a Montrealer, for a Bostonian to desecrate the flag. You do realize that head-to-head, the Canadiens are 25-9. The Canadiens have 24 Stanley Cups. The Bruins have 6. You realize what you've done, right?
Hey, I still have it in my room, so I'm 1-0. So.
Well, it's a great story, and I just wanted to talk to you about it off the bat. There's no bad feelings here. You are looking very good as of late. You are it's interesting because you came into the UFC on like 5 days' notice or something like that, right? You were in Holland, you got the call, had to lose 31 pounds, and even in a loss, it felt like you gained a ton of respect from people. And then we come to January in Boston, you have a full camp, and now people get to see what you do. Do you still feel though that we haven't quite, seen exactly what Charles Rosa could do? Like, people haven't quite recognized how good you can be?
Yes, absolutely. I think the last guy I fought, Sean Soriano, was a super tough guy. He was a huge prospect as well, and I think you're definitely ready to see the best of me. The fight on Dennis Siver was on 5 days' notice, and even the one versus Sean Soriano was on 4 or 5 weeks' notice, which was still enough time. But this time I have 4 months. You're going to see the best Charles Rosa you've ever seen.
How do you feel about coming into enemy territory here? You're fighting a guy who won the Ultimate Fighter Latin America. Pretty big deal here. Do you like that scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I love. I love traveling the world and being able to fight, doing what I love to do. The last time I fought in enemy territory was in the UFC in Sweden. I fought Dennis Siver, European guy. Obviously, he's a 18-time UFC veteran. He was the favorite. They were chanting his name, but by the end of the fight, they were chanting my name. They were chanting Rosa, so I expect the same in Mexico.
How early did you come here? That's always the big question to ask people. I know you were a little early, but how early?
Yeah, I came for 3 days a couple months ago for media day for 3 days, and I didn't feel much of the elevation, but still, to be safe, I came 10 days early. I came June 3rd, so I gave 10 days, and I got some great workouts in. I didn't feel like it affected me at all, the altitude. So I think a lot of it's mental. I mean, and maybe it's me. I pride myself in my cardio. I played sports my entire life, so I feel like I actually do better when I have that tired or cardio advantage.
He's a rising star. As I said, he won the Ultimate Fighter Latin America, but I've heard you say that it's a little too soon for him to be fighting someone like you. You don't feel like he's on your level. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
Why is that?
I just feel like, I've been in the game longer. A lot of people don't know I have 20 amateur fights. I was 19-1 as an amateur fighter, so all those amateur fights were just like professional fights. So I don't think there's much of a difference. And then I feel like the level of guys that he's fighting here were probably the same level as the guys of amateur I was fighting. And I'm not sure that many people would argue that, but that's how I feel. And I noticed when I came to the UFC, when I fought Dennis Siver, experience is a big part of fighting. I never really believed in it or thought that, but I realized it. I didn't feel like Dennis Siver was a better fighter than me. I just felt like he had more experience and was able to win the fight.
20 amateur fights isn't something we hear often. Why did you have so many?
I had 20 amateur fights. Charles McCarthy, my trainer, former UFC fighter, he was the guy that took me under his wing in the beginning, that built me up. And he wanted to make sure by my first professional fight that I was ready, that I knew what it was like to win a belt, to defend a belt, to fight a 5-round fight, all these things that I did as an amateur. And these are all things that helped me be ready for the time that I had my first UFC fight. I was ready to fight in the UFC. For my first professional fight, I was ready to fight in the UFC. And because you know how fast it can happen. I mean, you could win 2 or 3 fights within a year, and then you're fighting for a title. Right. Like you look at some of the guys. So that's where I'm at.
So were you kind of disappointed when you got Yair because you don't feel like he's on your level?
No, I thought it was a great fight for me. I really think this is going to be my, this is going to be my one,
coming out party.
My coming out party. Yeah. This is what I'm going to show the world what I'm going to do, and this is a perfect. It's on the main card, so I think Yair actually helped me be able to get on the main card because he's the Latin America tough winner. And like I said, I want to fight the best guys all over the world, and it's my dream, and it's what I love to do is travel the world. So that's what I'm doing.
And what's it like being a like the media, all this stuff you haven't done before, right? I mean, this is a really big deal. Cain versus Verdum. What's it been like?
It's awesome. I mean, this is also part of my experience growing. Like, I took all those amateur fights. I know the amateur. It's obviously not the same level with these guys, but I've done a lot of interviews and a lot of different ways to build. It's not just the being the best fighter, but it's also doing all the other things, all the media stuff and interviews and things like that. So I feel like I'm ready. I've been working hard for this for the last 5 years since I started training. Train with the best team in the world, American top team, and I have the best coaches and the best people with me. So I'm ready to go.
So how do you expect to beat him?
I expect first round finish, first round submission.
Wow. Any particular kind of submission?
I have a couple tricky ones up my sleeve, but I have a couple wins by Peruvian neckties. So if I can slap that on them, I'll be hoping to do that and get the bonus.
But just for the record, one time they used to call you the Boston Strangler, but now it's Boston Strong, right? Why'd you make that switch?
It wasn't actually. It wasn't me. Someone gave me the nickname Boston Strangler, and when I fought in Sweden against Dennis Seaver, Sweden said we can't use that nickname. It's a little too violent. So we switched it to Boston Strong that night, and I feel like it was better anyways for myself, marketing. And I do a lot of charity work and things like that. So when they say the Boston Strangler is coming to the hospital to visit the kids, it sounds a little better, Boston Strong. So I'm sticking with it.
And you feeling comfortable as this role model now? This is all very new to you, I would imagine, but it's great to hear someone even, starting out doing things like that for kids and going to hospitals.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I've always done. Even before I started fighting, I'm a big supporter of charities. I actually have a charity, my father's charity, Chucky's Fight, which is a charity dedicated to help knock out teen substance abuse. I lost 2 older brothers to drug overdoses, so that's one of the big things I stand against is helping people, and not just with drugs and stuff like that, but with everything. So.
How old were they when they passed away?
They were 21 and 23. I was 17, and then the following year 18 when I lost them.
And did you ever dabble? Did you ever have a problem with substance abuse?
I had a little bit of problems with it, and that's kind of what got me into MMA. I struggled a lot mentally when I lost my brothers to that stuff, and now that I was kind of looking for a hobby. I always played sports, hockey and stuff like that, played in college, but once that was gone, I was still left with that hole. I never really dealt with it, but once I moved down to Florida, I was able to get help with the problems and fix it, and then also I found MMA, and it saved my life. It really kind of substituted, I guess, and just made me be able to be what I am, and it's going to be great.
What do you think your brothers would say about their little bro in front of all these cameras fighting on pay-per-view? Yeah. What do you think they'd say about that?
Yeah, man, I think they would be proud of me, and that's the thing, and that's what, every time I go out to fight, I have each one of them on each one of my shoulders, my brother Dominic and Vincent on each shoulder, so I feel unbeatable when I walk into the octagon. Awesome.
Well, great to meet you for the first time, and don't worry about the flag. It's Thanks, okay. Brother. I'm happy that it's...
I still got it. You can come try to take it.
I think we beat you guys last year in the playoffs, but we won't talk about that. Good luck to you. Best of luck. Can't wait for the fight. It's a great one. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, brother.